All right, welcome back to the Realty Rundown with the Nic Wyse Team, where we keep you up to speed on all things real estate. I'm your host, Nic Wyse, and as always, I'm joined by my amazing teammates, Nathan Schwartz and Brianna Gilbert. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that can trip up both buyers and sellers if you're not prepared, and that is navigating HOA rules.
Yeah, so HOA, if you're buying or selling a home, or even if you're living in a homeowners association, you definitely want to have a good understanding of how these work. They can affect everything from how you maintain your yard to the fees you pay every month or annually. It can depend.
Yep, and as real estate agents, it's part of our job to make sure that our clients know exactly what they're getting into. And we're talking fees, restrictions, and even the financial health of the HOA itself.
Yeah, so let's just kick things off, I guess, with some of the basics. What is an HOA? For starters, it is a homeowners association. Why does it matter?
Yeah, so here's a catch. When you buy a home in an HOA community, you automatically become a member. So that means you have to follow the community rules and you have to pay the HOA dues. So, and again, those can also vary. So.
Yep, and those dues aren't just random charges. They fund things like maintaining the pool, landscaping, common areas, and even security, depending on the community. But the flip side is you're also agreeing to follow their rules.
Yeah, so HOAs help to maintain the look and the feel of the community, which is often something that people are really interested in when they're going through a neighborhood. They say, "Hey, we love everything about this. We love the amenities." Well, without an HOA to keep those things up, it can fall into disarray sometimes, and people want to maintain again that look, that feel, the beauty of a neighborhood. So that kind of brings us to our next point: the rules and regulations that you agree to follow when you move into a neighborhood with an HOA. So they've got their own set of rules. Every HOA is different. They're usually pretty similar, but there's always little nuances. So you can't just make assumptions and say, well, this one lets us have privacy fences and therefore they all will. Obviously, that's not true. So they're always going to be outlined in communities documents, which would include covenants, conditions, and restrictions. So here in the real estate world, that's a term we use all the time. Hey, send me the covenants and restrictions so I can share them with my client. So we call them CNRs or CCNRs. They've also got bylaws and meeting minutes. So those differ in basically there's the original covenants and restrictions for a neighborhood. And then when the homeowners association actually meets, they can develop their own bylaws. So those can be separate or they can be kind of adjoining to the actual covenants and restrictions.
Yeah, and if you're a buyer, here's a pro tip. Review the CC and DARs before you close on the house. I would definitely recommend that. Don't just glance at them. Look through the rules like, pets, parking, and home improvements. Some of them can be more strict than others, so it's definitely important to look through it before you actually purchase the house.
Yep, and for example, if you did have a client who didn't realize that the HOA restricted height fences, and they put up a new fence, they could be told that it has to come down, and that would be a huge mistake.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Just like we mentioned, those privacy fences are usually one of the things that's excluded. There's usually, like you mentioned, a fence height that's allowed. Most neighborhoods will allow a smaller chain link fence, about 3 foot in height, but to get those big 6-foot privacy fences, they're often restricted. So it's definitely something to be aware of. If that's something that's really important to you when you're buying your home, we're going to put in a privacy fence. Make sure you look through your covenants and restrictions. There's also going to be a set amount of time that you have to do that as well. So usually when we write an offer as a team, we want to make sure we get those covenants and restrictions from the other side, from the listing agent within 5 days. And then we often try and give our client another week after that to review those and make sure that everything that they're expecting is going to be in there. And sometimes the rules aren't even about the house itself. That, like you mentioned, Nate, I think there are parking rules. There's noise restriction rules, quiet after 10. There's limits on short-term rentals like Airbnbs. Sometimes those Airbnb rules are actually jurisdictioned by the city that you're in too. So there's other things that we'll look at when it comes down to, what you're really trying to do with your property.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's important for the sellers to be transparent when it comes to this process. If you're listing your home, make sure you disclose the HOA rules, fees, and dues, or any other assessments that might be coming up. No one wants any surprises at the closing table. Just be transparent up front.
Yep, absolutely. And if there's a pending special assessment like repaving the roads, buyers should really know if they're going to be hit with an extra $1,000 fee after moving in.
Yeah. That's really what it's all about, right? Avoiding disappointment and avoiding big financial mistakes. I'll tell you guys a quick story, and I'll try to make it quick. You guys know me, but I had a sale. Oh my goodness, it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago now. Family moving into the area. They're from outside of this area. They love a certain neighborhood. It's actually here in Middlebury where I live, not too far away. If they're listening, they're already like, "This is us." He's talking about us. They want to do a home salon in their
Oh,
basically in their third stall garage. They were going to convert that to a home salon, so she could continue to work from home. It's something she had done most of her adult life. And in that process, the HOA stepped in and said, "No, that's not allowed. You can't do that." So
mm,
basically, threw a big old monkey wrench in the process. Um, However, that was the HOA saying you can't do this. What we found out through reading their bylaws
uh,
was you can, and
oh,
it didn't endear me to the president of the HOA, who really wanted to shut it down. But myself and a good friend of mine, I probably better avoid names, really helped go throughout the neighborhood. We got signatures from a majority of the homeowners in there, just saying, "Hey, we've reviewed what this homeowner wants to do.
mm,
As long as they adhere to the parking rules and some of the other rules of the HOA, we're fine with them converting that third stall garage into a home salon." So it was a huge win for us and for our clients. And it's kind of that extra mile that we like to go as the
right.
club.
Can an HOA, can they amend it if they find out that a homeowner wants to, in this case, turn the third stall into a salon? Can they quickly go and amend it so that it includes that specific situation or not?
It's a good question. Boy, I don't know how quickly they could. Like, if they hear that this is going to happen and they have a meeting real quick and they put their meeting minutes
Right.
together, I think that lawyers would probably be getting involved at that
That's
point.
my thought.
Saying, yeah, saying, "Hey, you're obviously doing this," and then it's going to open up a whole other can of worms. Why are you restricting this one
Right.
family? Is it because of something that they are? Is it protected class kind of a thing? So yeah, I think a smart HOA would probably avoid that situation if they possibly could.
Yeah.
Nate, I know we had one too, actually. That countryside lot that we saw, I think it was 3 acres, and they had some rules in there. Basically, them and like 3 or 2 of their neighbors had developed covenants and restrictions. If you remember, that was like a year and a half ago
Okay.
in October, I
Okay.
think, of 2023.
Okay.
And yeah, again, I'll try not to say names, but
No, you're good.
but Ryan and Crystal. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
it was nothing they did wrong. But when they were buying that, we found in their title search that there were covenants and restrictions on this
Yeah.
agricultural land that they had bought. Basically, the neighbors wanted to make sure nobody put in like a hog farm or something like that next
Yep.
to them. So there were some restrictions on what kind of animals that they could have. So that was something we wanted to make sure they understood, because they did possibly want to have some 4-H
Mhm.
animals and things like that. They had dogs as well that they bred. So we wanted to make sure that they were allowed to do what they wanted to continue to do. We got through the process and ended up working great. But that just goes to show those covenants and restrictions, they stay with the property. So
Yeah.
you have covenants and restrictions that you put on your property, it attaches to the deed, and that's going to pass off to the next owner and the next owner
Yep.
and the next owner for millennia, basically until all owners agree to remove those. And the problem sometimes is those original people that agree to those terms are no longer with us. So then it becomes a very difficult thing to do to get those removed. So I said I wasn't going to do it, but I kind of meandered down a couple avenues there. Sorry, that's me. We should
It's
get to our
okay.
next
I fed
topic.
into it.
Our next big topic, of course, is money. We need to break down a little bit of the financial side of HOAs, which includes HOA fees. So in simple terms, these are payments that you make. They're often monthly or quarterly, and they keep the community running. They go into a coffers, so to speak, and then those funds are there when they're needed.
Right. And these fees can range from $50 a month to $500 or more, depending on the amenities. A community with a pool, gym, or a gated entrance is certainly going to be more expensive than a more simple neighborhood with, a shared lawn.
Yeah, and don't forget special assessments. If the HOA doesn't have enough money and it's reserved for a big project, like fixing a roof on a condo building, they might charge homeowners an extra fee to cover it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is so smart to look at those HOAs financials before you close, and say, "Hey, we want to make sure the HOA is in good, solid shape," because sometimes they do have those big facilities, and maybe the cost to take care of those facilities has risen, and now it needs a new roof. And where they had estimated 25 years ago that the roof would cost this much, it's going to cost twice that much or something like that. So it's really, really good idea to see what kind of cash reserves an HOA has on file, so to speak, and look for those red flags before you get to the closing table.
Yeah, exactly. And as agents, this is something we can help our clients do. We can request a copy of the HOA budget and financials so buyers can make a more informed decision.
Mhm.
Yeah, and trust me, nobody wants to be blindsided by a $2,000 assessment right after they move in.
Yeah, bam. It's like there's a lot of things that can go awry, but these are things that we can prevent and avoid. So we want to do that. And that's where, as agents, as your agent, we play a big role. We're the ones who need to educate our clients on what it means to live in an HOA community.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would always request the CC and DARS bylaws and recent meeting minutes so buyers can review and then make their decision before purchasing.
Mhm.
Yep. And for sellers, we help them prepare an HOA disclosure packet, and this can include a breakdown of the dues, upcoming assessments, and any pending rule changes.
Yep. And the great thing is a lot of that stuff we can put right on the MLS, the multiple listing service. So we can put that out there to the world. So when buyers are coming through, they've already had a chance to review those. Again, one of the reasons we do a lot of the things we do when we market a home is to avoid wasting time honestly, for ourselves, for the buyer's agent, but especially for our clients. For a seller, maybe they've got dogs, kids, family, whatever it is, they got to get out of the house for every showing. We want to make sure when people are coming to look, they have their expectations in line with what that property actually is. So that's us. We're going to be your guide. So guys, we're getting close to wrapping up, but before we do that, I wanted to do something a little different. We haven't done this before, but a little pros and cons, a little rapid fire round here. So we're going to go through some pros and cons of living in an HOA neighborhood. So Nathan, go.
Yeah. So a pro, the community stays clean and well maintained. A con, you have less control over how your property is used.
Yep, and a pro, your property value is often more protected because the neighborhood stays looking nice. And a con is that you pay monthly dues and they don't go away.
No, there you go. Yeah, that's the pro. The access to the community amenities like the pools, the gym, the clubhouses, the basketball courts. The cons are obviously those amenities that come with a fee.
Yep. And another pro, rules can prevent that neighbor from painting their house green or bright pink or something. But a con also, the same rules might stop you from painting your door red. So.
Yep, and I think that about sums it up.
Yep. That's pretty much what I wanted to cover for the HOAs. So that's really a wrap for today's The Realty Rundown with the Nic Wyse Team. HOAs aren't always fun, but understanding the rules can save you from a lot of headaches down the road.
Yeah, and if you're buying or selling a home with an HOA, or if you have any questions, reach out to us. We're definitely here to help you.
Yep, and if you're thinking of listing your home, let us help you prepare an HOA disclosure packet ahead of time. It'll make for a much smoother closing process.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in to the Realty Rundown from the Nic Wyse Team. Make sure to follow us on Facebook Live, wherever you get your podcasts. If you've got questions, just remember, Nic knows and Wyse replies.
See you next time.
Yep. See you guys.